when you try to standardize across a human system of variable actors, some will flourish, most will fail. Because that conversation is exactly the hodgepodge, melting pot that America is. We're trying to standardize policies, laws, right, across a variable system of tribes in which these tribes are so different from each other that you cannot standardize a policy, right? If you try to standardize everyone is required in America to eat pork, you're going to offend a lot of people.
Are we ready?
Yeah, let's do it, baby.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you are. Welcome to the Matt Kim Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Kim, joined by my co-host, Mr. Peter Saddington.
안녕하세요. Welcome to the Matt Kim Show. Smash the like button, guys. What's up?
Welcome, everyone, to Season 7, Episode 3?
Is it 3?
3.
You're the one making up the numbers, bro.
They are just arbitrary numbers. We just put them together, and at some point, I think it makes sense.
We should make sure that we get to 69, though.
Nice. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. Good evening. Thank you for joining.
Smash the like button. Make sure you join the Discord. All that good jazz. We are back. We are here. And it seems like not super demonetized. Looks like we've survived a little bit, but we still have those ones that were demonetized.
We are like puttering.
Yeah.
We are kind of running on fumes. We had this kind of big growth, and then it kind of sputtered. And I get that because anytime you hit a peak, you're going to kind of normalize a little bit. But I do see that the impressions and what YouTube is showing is definitely down.
Yep.
So it's not because people aren't clicking the video. It's because YouTube is just showing the video less.
Yep, that's right.
So, damn the blue fingers.
We're the poof. We stated this. We cannot let the pooflingers win.
Cannot let the poo flingers win.
Sar. Please, Sar. Sar. Help us out, guys.
So we've recently done a lot of racial type of episodes.
Well, we've noticed a lot of patterns, is what we could say.
We've done the JQ Jew tiny hat, and we've always kind of sprinkled that in over time. But we went a little bit more into it recently than before.
Well, they seem to have their hand in everything, Matt. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm overblowing it, but it seems like they have their hand in most things.
They kind of take the tiny hats and just throw them everywhere.
Yeah, it's not hard to throw those tiny hats around, guys. It's easy.
It's like little ninja stars.
They're like, gotcha, bitch. Gotcha, bitch.
And then we did an episode talking about the Indians.
We did. We got a lot of pooflinging.
A lot of pooflinging for that. And warranted, not warranted?
Oh, I mean, it's the internet, man.
Yeah.
The internet's going to do what the internet does best, and I have actually really enjoyed some of the comments, man. It's just it just makes you I've had more laugh out loud, like true, when someone texts you and they're like LOL, and you're like, Ninja, you didn't laugh out loud.
Yeah.
I had real laugh out loud moments reading some of these comments. I was like, oh my gosh, these poop flingers are so mad, bro.
And I love that our comment section loves to SAR.
Oh, yes. There's one guy I'm noticing. He's like commenting on all of ours. He's like, SAR, keep doing it. We notice you. Keep doing it, bro.
So I thought it'd be only right if we also did an episode on Korea.
Oh, are we digging into the motherland?
I think we have to.
Oh, man.
Okay. Well, and I want to start with a question for you. Do you feel like you are Korean or Korean American? Or American?
Oh, easy. American.
Really?
I am Korean by nationality, Korean by ethnicity, Korean semi-culturally, though I grew up in kind of white bread culture. But I am, first and foremost, I am American as American can be.
Because, for context, you were born in Korea.
Yes, sir.
You were adopted.
Yes, sir.
We've done an episode on that before.
Oh, yeah,
if
we did.
anyone wants to go back, maybe we'll link it. Because if you want to know Peter's complete backstory, we did a kind of a deep dive into that.
We did. It was a long time. I forgot we did that.
A little bit about a year ago.
Yeah.
Maybe a hair over a year ago.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I was born in the United States. I was raised here. I've never lived in Korea. But I grew up very Korean. You are Korean. I am Korean. Will is Korean.
Mm-hmm.
Will has a Korean wife. You have a Korean wife.
Yep.
I have a Korean wife.
Yes, and I think it's important to note, you don't stink.
Oh, no, yeah.
I don't stink. Will?
No stink.
No stink from the Will. Empirically true.
It's facts.
I love it, dude. We there's so many SARS were like, no man, you stinky. I had so many people were like, no man, I did combat with you Koreans. You guys smell like kimchi. No man, I was hanging out in Korea during the summers. You guys smell like bunghole. Like there's so many great comments, bro. But officially, Matt is the least stinky person on all of X.
Yes, I am. Officially, factually true that I am the least stinkiest person on the entire platform of X.
No doubt. There's nobody on the Twitterverse, the Xverse, the entire world who's had more commentary towards his non-existent body odor.
Yes, I don't smell.
He doesn't.
It's okay. It's a thing.
Don't hate, just congratulate.
So you see yourself as more American than you do Korean.
Yeah, but I would say I'm Korean American. If people were to say, hey, what nationality are you? I'd say Korean American. But I mean, the American is the bottom dollar for sure.
Because I've gotten a lot of comments over the last year because I spent a lot of time doing a lot of political commentary. And I'll say, oh, I'm Korean American. And I get a lot of people messaging me and they'll say, Matt, you're not Korean American, you're just American. We don't need the hyphenated.
I can see the argument behind
we
that.
don't need the hyphenated whatever anymore. And I thought about that. And then because of all the Tiny Hat episodes that we've done, people will come back and say, oh, Matt and Peter, they are our honorary Aryans.
Yes, we are honorary Aryans.
Yes.
I actually read one comment. I think he was talking about the fact that we are Euro-Asian. Or if you think about Eurasia in the beginning, it was pretty much just white people mixing with other people. And so in a sense, from a geographic and historical standpoint, yep, being Eurasian, we are certainly, as Koreans, more closely aligned and connected to the Aryan nation than we were to say the Indians or the blacks, for sure.
And people will comment and say, you guys are our honorary white guys.
Yeah, why do they say that, though?
And I'm thinking, no, I'm good.
Stay in your lane. Stay in your
I'm
lane.
good.
Stay in your lane.
I'm like extremely proud to be Korean. I'm very unapologetic about that. And I don't think, because people are like, oh, Matt, you comment on conservative politics or you liked Trump. Like you want to be one of them. I'm like, no, I actually don't.
So
not at all.
Do you think that's because of the way you were raised and the, let's say, propaganda that your parents instilled in you?
Meaning?
When I say propaganda, I use it as a light term. And let me extract myself for a second. When I think about my children, I am the only one on the planet that is truly allowed to propagandize them into the mental models and worldviews that I want them to have. That is my right.
The saying we like to say around here: if anyone's gonna propagandize my children, it's gonna be me.
Exactly. So you and I are alignment 100% there. So given that model, do you think your parents, being immigrants over into Moscow,
Idaho?
I just wanted to leave the Moscow there. Moscow, Idaho. Do you think they brought with them that cultural focus to your upbringing?
I think my family have always grown up very close. And we come from an extremely traditional Korean background. I think we can trace back our roots like thousands of years. So we've always been really Korean. So we celebrate, we celebrate all the American holidays. We also carry a lot of old Korean customs. But my cousins don't really speak Korean. So I'm the oldest of all my cousins. I'm the most Korean. And then my younger cousins, as it gets younger and younger, they become less Korean.
How many cousins do you have, approx?
I mean, in the United States, on one side of the family, there are 7 of us.
Have they, since you're the eldest, have they seen the Matt Kim show?
Some of them watch it.
What do they think? What do they think?
I mean, a couple of them are based. A couple of them are New York City Korean liberals. So maybe not their cup of tea.
Have you ever shown them this? Like you don't have like a group chat with your cousins?
No, but
That's not a cool thing to do.
no, but when they if I interview someone big, maybe they'll like share it around or hey, guess who Matt talked to or whatever.
That's cool.
But yeah, they're different. you know?
So would you say that? And again, I'm just poking questions here. Would you say that when you were a young child, the Koreanness of your culture was at the forefront of your family, or was it just part of the way that you did life?
It was just the way we did life. I don't think we knew any better. You know, so on Thanksgiving, for example, a lot of Korean families I think are like this. On Thanksgiving, we'll have an American Thanksgiving. We'll have a turkey. We'll also have a bunch of Korean food.
For sure. But you also do Chuseok like 2 weeks ahead of that, don't
Correct.
you? Yeah. Which is the Korean Thanksgiving.
So my family doesn't do Chuseok.
Really?
Not really.
Really?
My wife's family. My wife is extremely Korean.
My was family all over that Chuseok.
Yeah. So my wife's family is in Korea mostly. Some of them are here, and they celebrate obviously because they're in Korea. They celebrate all the Korean holidays. So we do a little bit of both. For example, my daughter, who's 2.5 years old almost now.
Already?
Almost. Quick.
Dude, she's going to be a teenager soon, bro. Shiza.
From when she was born, we did 50% of her books in English and 50% of her books in Korean.
That's good. That's good.
She has decided, I don't know why, how, that Korean is going to be her primary language.
Good. Good for her.
So my daughter speaks like 90% Korean.
Good.
Which is interesting because, like my Korean's pretty good. We speak a lot of Korean at home, but she decided to speak Korean. I don't know how kids decide that, by the way. It seems like they choose.
If you're mostly speaking Korean at home, I would assert that that's probably why she's deferred to that. I mean, when my daughter was born, that's all we spoke for the first 3 years, only Korean. When my son was born, we were like, let's just speak English. It's just easier. And so I think if you're speaking more English or Korean at home, that's what she's defaulted to, which is a good thing. It's I'll give you my experience. It's going to retard her.
Retard.
I'm using the word appropriately. It's going to slow down her communication abilities early.
Retard.
He's going to retard her abilities a little bit early, but the bilingualness and that value is going to have a long tail.
It's also probably because she's with your wife more.
Yeah, that's true too.
Before I entered preschool, I only spoke Korean because I was raised by my grandmother.
Yeah, I think my primary language was Korean growing up because I was raised by my grandmother.
Yeah.
So, she only speaks Korean.
So is that for those that don't know, is that a normative experience that your children are raised by grandparents?
I think that a lot of, we're second generation Korean. So I think a lot of the first generation, when they first come here, they're so busy working that both sides have to work, and therefore, grandparents or family have to chip in and help out. I think that's like that for most immigrant families.
It's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
And if I can say, because I want to bring it in early, I think the dissolution of the family unit is a PsyOp. Let me expound. We live in this culture where, for some bloody reason, the world looks at a 17, 18-year-old child, and I use that word appropriately, they're still children, 17, 18-year-old child, and says, okay, you're 17, 18 years old, time for you to leave your family for 4 years to go to this basically, orgy of an experience called college, which is basically just a waste of money. And then after that, you're supposed to go create a career extracted from your family. I find that to be a PsyOp. Why is it normative that the child leaves at 17, 18? Why shouldn't they just stay with the family?
Interesting.
If you think about it, this is actually a new age thing. Like college is not a 1,000-year-old institution. It's only like 100 years old, right? Right after World War II. So if you think about it, before college and all of this extra curricular stuff that happens when you're 18 to 24, that didn't exist 150 years ago. You stayed with the family.
How many master's degrees do you have?
3.
So you did college, you did graduate school 3 times. I'm just saying.
Fully into PsyOp.
Been completely indoctrinated, by the way.
No, this is why I can speak so freely about that system, because I know more than most about the terribleness and the uselessness of that system.
There would be more credibility if you had one master's degree, and you're like, I'm not doing it again. The whole thing's a psyop. But you get 3, you're like, oh no, the thing's rigged. Like, no, like you did it 3 times.
I also started a PhD, so but I quit that because I woke up.
I can't believe you're a quitter. Retard.
I'm a quitter now. No, I quit the PhD because a PhD basically means that you know a ton about something that nobody else cares about. That literally was the nail in the coffin for me when someone tongue in cheek in graduate school looked at me and said, you're getting your PhD. You know that means that you're going to know more about one topic that nobody else knows about and nobody else cares about. And I looked at him and I said, shit, you're right. And that's where literally the process of unbundling myself from this potential PhD that I was going to get sucked into for 6 years part time. I was like, fuck it, forget it. It's not worth it.
Because there's a stereotype that Korean families have is that you have to go to the top schools, you have to do well, you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, and every single Asian that ever goes on TV, that's especially any actor, that's their origin story, right?
Yeah.
How many times have you heard that story? I felt so alone because my parents wanted me to be a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer, and they were so disappointed because I became an actor. No, they got disappointed in you because you're gay. but
They're disappointed in you because you're a homo. That's why.
But I think that stereotype, I mean, I think most people want that for their children.
I think it's a psyop.
Like,
though.
don't you want your kids to go to a good school?
No.
Not at all.
No.
None.
Because I know too much, Matt. I know the uselessness of a undergraduate degree.
Yes.
I know the uselessness of master's degrees that aren't moving towards a professional realm, like a doctor, a lawyer, right? And like you need these professional certifications to get to these levels. Fair enough, peace. But if you're not reaching for a doctor or lawyer or something that requires that certification and that time in the seat doing that work, you don't need a brick and mortar university anymore. Like for my, let me give even more context. My wife has an undergrad. She has a graduate degree in public health. She has a JD. We have 4 degrees between the two of us. Like we are the prototypical high-level Korean, kids who got multiple master's degrees. Like we both can look at the educational world, Matt, and say, useless. Why can you say that, Peter? Because I have $1.3 million worth of debt that I paid off of for my 3 graduate degrees and my wife's 2 graduate degrees. Like I know how useless I could that million 3. I could have made probably $70 million on Bitcoin off that. Easily.
I went to college. I went to the Ohio State University.
Number 1 in the world.
Going to a championship game next week, and I think we're going to win. I really enjoyed my time in school.
Did you?
I did. I loved going to college.
What did you do in college?
I didn't learn a damn thing. That's fine.
That's
I
fine.
really enjoyed my time.
But okay, so knowing what you know now, would you trade that 4 years for?
No, I would still go again.
Really?
Yeah, why not?
Why?
I mean, again, I don't think I learned much. I mean, as far as what I need for the world, but I also learned how to kind of, navigate society, to kind of learn about how people work, have different experiences. And it was just a lot of fun.
Don't believe you.
You
did not convince me with that spiel.
I really enjoyed it.
It's because he was a party boy.
Well,
Yeah.
I can understand that you enjoyed it, but like, just sitting here, you retarded your life by 4 years, Matt. I'm going to keep using that word appropriately.
But
you retarded your life for 4 years while you partied your ass off in this essentially a purgatory. That's what I see college is. You're 18 years old, then you go into purgatory for 4 years of uselessness when you could have been earning a salary, a wage, and life experience. You could, in those 4 years, you could have gone from entry level to mid manager, earning $120,000, $130,000, $130,000 a
sounds
year.
miserable.
That's better.
That sounds you're totally not selling it, by the way. If you didn't go to college, you could have had a really shit job in a really shit corporation. You could have worked your way up and doing to a mid-level shit position, and you would have been happier.
You would have had money.
At that age, you're gonna blow it anyway, no matter how much money you have.
Let's get down to brass tacks. Do you think university today is worth the cost?
I think it depends.
A 4-year degree.
I was in Ohio and I went to a state school. So it's not $60,000 a year.
Yeah.
I think maybe that could play a little bit into it. It's, after you get some aid or scholarship money and everything else, it's not that expensive. It gets really expensive when you try to get a liberal arts degree from like Tufts and you live in California and you have to spend $80,000 a year.
Yep.
I don't know if I'd do that.
Yeah. So in-state.
In-state, I don't know. If you live in Georgia and you decide if you get into UGA and you go to UGA, like, I don't know if that's a bad thing.
It's 4 years of uselessness, though, for an underwater lesbian basket weaving degree.
I think the problem in American society, and something that Americans really struggle with, is that Americans don't have any they don't have anything that binds people together. Koreans all share the same blood. Koreans have been Korean for 4,000 years. Meaning wherever you go in the world, if you meet another Korean, you have that in common.
Yes.
If you are a Jew and you meet another Jew, like, well, hey, we are one of the few Jews out in the world. They have something that binds them together. Maybe it's stronger because it's religion. Quote, quote. But when you are just an American, what do you have that binds people together? Most Americans don't even believe the same things. They don't share the same culture. They don't share the same values.
McDonald's.
Half the country is conservative. Half the country wants their kids to chop their dicks off. Like, there is such a divide in how people and Americans perceive the world that you need something to tribalize them. And college tends to be one of those things that tribalize you. Yes. So if you live in Georgia and you went to UGA and you get into the business world and you meet another UGA guy, you're like, oh, that's my tribe.
I see. And so what you're saying is that because America is essentially this grand experiment. I mean, that's the way I look at America, is this grand experiment, because America is the newest and most prolific and fastest growing nation, if you think about all things combined from when we landed in America and started industrializing America to where we are now. So it is the grandest experiment on display. What is novel about this grand experiment is that we started off as a hodgepodge of many different nationalities due to the nature of immigration. What transpired is because of all these cultures immigrated, these cultures never found a common unity. They stayed in their cultures, right? We had the Irish, we had the English, we had the Germans who came in, we had the Koreans and Chinese, like Japanese, like every ethnicity ended up coming to America, but then creating their own little mini Chinatown or Koreatown or something like that. And so what you're saying is because the American experience lacks the generational bloodline ethnic conditions for unity, that Americans have to abstract themselves for other ways to identify a university is one way. Another way is NFL, college football.
Professional sports.
Oh, professional sports, right? You're a Jets fan. You're a Jets fan for life, right? You're a Miami fan. You're a Miami fan for life. Ohio, ride or die, right? And in some ways, that's a cheap identification. It's a cheap party trick to say, hey, we share a common bond. What's that common bond? Well, you and I both spent $250,000 to go to these universities. Is that what you're saying?
Kind of. I think that's exactly what it is. Because there's not something that binds people together. People are looking for a way to bind to one another. People always look for a community.
Yes.
People are always trying to search and find their tribe. I think that's what a lot of college is about, is how do you navigate the world and find your tribe. I think that's what a lot of people go through.
So
right?
do you think that is a replacement? Do you think that can be a replacement for the deeper cultural bonds that like a Korean person has or a Japanese person has?
Well, okay, Elijah Schaefer, who I kind of actually really like, he tweeted out something the other day, I think 2 days ago. He said, Americans are genetically European and everyone else is just a guest.
Play that back.
Americans are genetically European, and everyone else is a guest.
Well, what he's created there is a demarcation line of the Caucasian individuals who apparently established America and began to industrialize it. Is the way that I say it. So that I think that's a hard argument to have because there's been so many waves of immigration over the past couple hundreds of years in America, right? And so when do you make that demarcation line to say like, okay, America's been established, everybody else is now a guest? Where is he putting that line? That's the question.
I don't know. That was kind of the premise, and I thought about it.
1776? Is that the line?
I thought about it a little bit, and if that argument is true, or if it has any validity to that argument, then isn't it on that said people? Isn't it their responsibility to keep the society and culture the way it's supposed to be? You can't blame other people for infiltrating a culture. People are always trying to infiltrate a culture. The Chinese have done a good job of staying Chinese. The Koreans have done a phenomenal job of staying Korean. The Japanese have done a good job of staying Japanese. Americans, if they're like, oh yeah, like Americans are supposed to be white Europeans, then like you've done a shit job at that.
They have. In America.
In America.
Right.
Well, in Europe too.
And yeah, I saw a recent statistic that in London, like this year, more than 50% of London now will be immigrants and multivariant cultures, not actually natives.
Yeah.
That's crazy to think of. The major city on this island is no longer culturally English.
Yeah.
It's gone. And it will never return.
I mean, but that same argument can be made for here, right?
I think we have...
Because at least UK, they have kind of a UK history.
Yeah.
What is American history?
Well, that's what the liberals like to tear us down about. They're like, our history is a bunch of massacres and all we did was just rape and pillage the world. It's like, that's happening today, actually, more than ever in African countries and other countries. Like, it's happening all that. Raping and pillaging and taking over. What about this Ukraine thing? Like, it happens all the time. That's the nature of man. And so I find it to be a weak argument to say that that there's immigration to the point and then it's now America, but we're not doing a good job of keeping America, because no one's actually defined what American culture should be.
Yes, or is.
Or that's even what should American culture? Because if you look at American, if I were an alien, let's abstract ourselves. If I were an alien today and I were to fly into America, like what would I see? I would see the youth being focused on hip hop and degenerate culture, right? I'd see the youth focused on video games and influencers, these weird people that dance around and punch people in the face and get lots of likes for it. I'd see the older generation creating policies that only benefit for themselves, even though they're going to die, and the younger generation is stuck with a mountain of debt. And I'd see an essential. I would see probably no common thread in the American culture that were to say these people are united for a purpose. That's probably, if I were an alien today and I were to land in America, I'd say you guys are fractured, decentralized, and lack alignment. Is probably what I'd see.
And the country says we believe in freedom of speech, but yet you can't talk about certain things. They say that we believe in freedom of rights and individual, except you can't do certain things. We believe that the United States is a democracy and this is an experiment democracy, except it's more representative and the system is rigged and the people that make the decisions don't actually listen to the voice of the people that they're supposed to represent.
Totally.
So that isn't true. So what is it then? Because, people are like, like, especially when we're doing the Indian argument, like all these Indians are coming in and they're going to change the culture.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, like, when Koreans come to the United States, I don't think anyone comes into the United States going, oh, we want to change Korea into America. I mean, we want to change America into Korea. Like, that's not a thing.
That's not a thing.
At all.
Not a thing.
Most especially first generation Koreans, when they come to the United States, they think of themselves as, this is America, and we are guests here, and we want to create a lifestyle where maybe our future generations can assimilate or have a better life.
Yeah.
They don't come here thinking we want America to become Korea.
You just brought up a very good point. Very good point. There are some cultures that you and I have noticed that take a particular stance and a particular focus on changing America to their design, to their worldviews? Where we have also noticed, like Koreans and say Japanese, are not the type of cultures to come in and say, hey, you're not doing it my way, right? But there are some cultures that we can call out that are very focused on making sure that their philosophies, their worldviews, their models are not only well known, but we should, as America, change our policies to suit them. What do you think it is in a culture that moves men and women in that culture to want to proselytize and evangelize and force their culture on other people? What's that difference?
Well, so we have APAC that is very much involved in United States politics.
Right.
And APAC, they say it's American, and maybe it kind of is.
No, it's not. It can't be American because it's Israeli.
Yeah.
Israeli's not American.
You know,
We can't conflate these two ideas.
Well,
it's
you
like
know-
saying that Japan is American. It's not.
Israeli and Israeli Americans support APAC and donate into APAC. But do you know who the biggest donors in APAC are?
I'm going to say it's probably the stupid Christians.
It's like the deep South Christians of like Texas.
Why? Why?
All the Texas megachurches are all Zionist churches.
Why is that, Matt?
I feel like that's an episode for another day. Judeo-Christian
You know, I've been
coming soon. Judeo-Christian value episode coming soon.
I have a new word. Can I tell it to you?
Islamic Judeo-Christian.
It's a word, and I hope everyone that's listening, you start picking it up because I conceived of this word. I didn't come up with it. I'm sure someone said it before, but I thought of it, and I was like, this is a great. We should call them Judeo-communism. I think Judeo-communism is a much more appropriate word considering the patterns of that ethnicity over historical time.
Judeo-Marxism.
I like Judeo-communism. I like Judeo-communism because if you think about like the Bolshevik revolution, you think about the uprising in other European countries in the past. You see like, you know, the Gulf of Tonkin. You see like the USS Liberty. You see a lot of these patterns. And it seems like the ones that are generally moving into power are these certain Semitic individuals, and they're always promoting this communist ideology, which, if I remember correctly, wasn't Karl Marx also a Juden?
Well, and funny, in Korea, they call them Judeans.
That's why I brought it up, Judean.
Judean, which means person from Judea,
Yep.
which is interesting.
And if you go into the deepest, longest history of Korean and Japanese and Chinese lore, when they have drawings of the devil and those evil demons, they all have these like long noses.
Do they?
And they all have these black hats, like these little black squares where their pineal gland is. Do you know what I'm talking about?
About to find a picture.
Hey, Will, could you bring up a picture of a old, let's just say,
Is he talking about dokebis?
Maybe.
No, I'm talking about the old pictures of demons in samurai lore and in Korean lore in the past. Whenever you see these demons, they have these long noses and they have these little black squares on their heads.
I feel like Peter's thinking about the meme.
Is there a meme? All I know is that when
Everything has a meme.
when I look into history past, there's the Judeo-communists have been around for a long time. So I like this terminology. I'm going to use it more. Judeo-communist. I think that's appropriate. Because
let me see this pic.
Judeo-Christian, because we were talking about Judeo-Christian. Like all these Southern Baptists, all these Southern Christian churches that are all Judeo-Christian, that seems counterintuitive, Matt. Seems like it's the wrong theme.
So APAC obviously and Israel has a huge impact on American society and government and politics, etc.
But they're just a minority. So how do they have so much power, Matt?
But if you go to other countries, United States has a lot of impact on other countries' politics and government and society.
Yeah, because we're the world police.
Is it different?
Well,
Isn't it one country forcing their ideology and beliefs and values on another population? For example, Squid Games, which is one of the most popular shows Korea's ever done. And all of a sudden, you got to do a season 2. Netflix gets involved, gives them a bunch of money, and of course you have a trans character.
So not everyone is up to date with the social apparatus and the coolest shows out there. When you say Squid Games, Matt, what is Squid Games?
Everyone knows what Squid Game
Not
is.
everybody knows what Squid Game
is.
Not everybody knows what Squid
Can you
Game.
guys flame Peter for saying that he doesn't know what Squid Game
I'm just
is?
trying to make sure that people don't get lost in this highly
People are in the know.
sophisticated conversation about squids and games. Like, what is Squid Games? It's a Korean export.
Yes, it's a Korean export from Korea, and yeah, and of course Netflix gets involved, and they have to have a trans character, which is crazy because there's no trans people in Korea.
You got, if I may say, you got pretty hot and bothered about that, man.
I've been thinking about it a lot.
Tell me more. Why did you get so hot and bothered about it?
I think I've been thinking about Korea a lot recently, more than I did in the past.
You're not becoming like Korea first, are you?
Well,
You're
okay.
not becoming radicalized, are you?
If you are an Israeli first guy, if you are, which is a huge, like 60% of our government. If you are an Israeli first person, man, woman, them, if you're one of them, then you are trying to change U.S. policy in order to benefit Israel. You're trying to donate money to certain SPACs or causes or policies or bills or candidates in order to benefit Israel policy.
This is absolutely true. Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
That's how that works.
Yep.
There's no debate there.
Yeah, no debate. And actually, if we're intellectually honest, the world police that the America is actually just a sock puppet of AIPAC. Because AIPAC is the hand that goes through the anal all the way up to the mouth of America and says, we're going to do this. And Americans just say, yes, Amasa, let's do it, whatever Israel wants.
If you are a Korean and you are Korea first in America, you want United States to not be involved in Korean politics. You want United States to not give more money and more influence. You want them to do less. You are not trying to change the rules and laws around the country in which you are in order to benefit the other country, home country that you come from. It is extremely different.
That is an interesting way of putting it, Matt. I've never thought of it that way. You are absolutely right.
Israeli First wants to change U.S. policy to benefit Israel.
Yes.
Korea First wants U.S. to leave Korea alone.
Yeah. It's like
It's completely different.
it's the problem that we have in America is that in America you can have one point of fact. 50% of the America looks at that one point of fact and sees it this way.
Yes.
50% of America sees the same fact and sees it this way. So what you're saying is that when Korea says, or Japan says, Korea first, Japan first, that's essentially saying, America, get your stinky boot off our neck and leave us alone. Let us do us.
We don't need 20 military bases. We don't need 30,000 troops. We don't need the government saying, you can do this, you can't do this, you can trade it with
Get
this,
out
you
of our
can't trade it with
business.
that. Let the country that's been around and the people that have been around for 4,000 plus years figure their own shit out.
Yes. And you're saying in juxtaposition to that, there are some cultures where they say them first, and it's all about imposing their will on everybody else.
Again, no one from Korea comes to the United States going, we want to change how America is. No. People that come from Korea come to America because America is America.
So I think it's important that we extrapolate this because I think it's important to show not only the dichotomy, but the massive scale that most are on. So Japanese first, leave us alone. Let Japan do it. Korea, leave us alone. Germans, all right, Swiss, Australians. I could go to Singaporeans, Chinese. We can go all the way down the line. Every single country, Brazil, Argentina, right? Everyone says when they say their country first, it means America, leave us alone.
Let us take care of our own shit.
But there's this one people group on the other side, is what you're saying. In contrast, when they say Israel first, it means
change the way you do things to accommodate us.
it's an interesting dichotomy, Matt. Do you think that's a cultural thing, or is that a religious thing? Or are they the same?
It's probably one and the same.
I see Zionism to be a imperceptible idea, meaning that there's so much dissonance in this idea of Zionism, because we have, and I'm not going to quote this right, so the internet sleuths can correct me later. I have seen court cases through the history of Israel that say that to be Jewish is an ethnicity, but then also Jewish you have to be religiously, and if you're not religious, then you're not ethnic, or if you're not ethnic, you're not religious, you're not really a Jew. And the reason I'm saying all this word salad is that to be a Zionist and to be Jew in today's world is actually it's a misnomer. There is no definition of being a Jew. There's no true definition of being a Zionist if you look at the court cases that define what it's supposed to be. The point is there are contradictory court cases that say that don't clearly define what it means to be a Zionist, what it means to have this worldview. Apparently, you can just upload it into your system and you're suddenly, a Jewess or a Jew lover or something.
I mean,
or you're suddenly Jewish or something.
I mean, I've always thought about this. Like, I met a black Jew.
Yeah, I've met some black Jews. I never met an Asian Jew though.
I've never met an Asian Jew. I've met a black Jew.
I should be the first Asian Jew.
And
I know some Asian Jews.
You know
Do
some
you
Asian
really?
Jews?
You know
Yeah,
some
they
Asian
were
Jews?
they were adopted.
Oh, well, that's because they're fucked up. Yeah, that's okay.
Says the adoptee.
If they're adopted, if they're adopted, they have a screw loose. Trust me, I would know.
And I was wondering, like,
Those adoptees are so far gone from their identity, because we talked about this, that they're so lost that they now claim they're Jewish. Is what you're saying? Those adoptees are so fucked up.
so if you are a black Jewish convert, not like a dark-skinned Semite that's Jewish, I'm talking like I grew up in America, in Chicago, and now I'm a Jew.
And his name's Reggie.
My name was, Dante, and now it's Abe.
Yeah. Oh, it's Muhammad.
Well, then he'd be going the other way.
Oh, that's right. Well, okay. Well,
But
they're
does he count as being chosen? Can you convert into being chosen?
But there are different permutations of that. There are some who truly believe that the true Jewish people of the world were actually black. There are religions of Judaism where it's like the only way that you're a true Jew is you're like an African. Like, you haven't looked this up?
I have.
You've seen, yeah, you know. So I think you're confounding the idea, which is exactly what we're headed, is that to be a Jew and to be a Zionist today, essentially you can just claim it. I don't think there is a particular like true hard and fast rule that this is the only way. I think you can just say, hey, I'm a Zionist and I love it.
But if you're a Korean, regardless of where in the world you are, your parents were Korean, your grandparents were Korean, your great-grandparents were Korean, your great-great-great-grandparents were Korean, you've been Korean for thousands of years. Koreans have a huge tendency to marry other Koreans.
Yep.
3 people here, case in point.
Yep.
Although there is a little bit more interracial marriages going on in the United States than before, but it's not a huge percentage.
No.
And usually we lose some of the women to men. Like that happens,
Yep.
Every once in a while, you'll meet the Korean guy that marries a white girl, and we're like, "Oh, good for you."
Well, for those who've studied history past, some would say that it's because of the Aryan nation that we're even around today. So we're technically coming back to our roots of if we're marrying an Aryan.
Yeah, I don't know about all that, but like Koreans are Korean because their blood is Korean.
Yes.
It's very different than saying I'm Jewish because I'm somewhere down the line 100 years ago somebody was Jewish and now I'm kind of still Jewish, but I believe and therefore I went to synagogue and now I'm Jewish too. Yeah. It's a lot more gray. It's more difficult.
Oh, it's not only it's gray, but I think there's not a lineage there that I think that you can truly pull on. There's this I've read these things about how culturally the Jewish people tell other Jewish people like never do the 23andMe, like the hereditary stuff and the DNA stuff, and the reason is because every Jew who's done it has realized
they're not.
They're not.
Is that true, Will? That it's illegal to do?
Yeah.
23andMe is outlawed in Israel.
I don't know if it's outlawed, but it's one of those things culturally, like, it's like, don't do it because you're going to be disappointed. You're going to find out that you were part of the Khazarian, or the Germanic regions, or you were part of the, part of the, I don't know, Crusades or something. But the shocking thing in the videos that I've seen is all of these people, these Jews who do it. They're like, holy cow, I thought I was like from Palestine, or I thought I was from here. It's like, no, I'm actually white.
From Sweden.
I'm from Sweden, or I'm from like
Switzerland.
and the disappointment in their faces is like they grew up their entire lives being inculcated and propagandized and saying like you're pure blood, like you're so important, you're more important than anybody else. But then when they do these DNA and histories, it's like, holy crap, I'm actually a mutt. I'm actually like, I was actually part of the traveling traveling fair or something like that. So what are you seeing?
I don't see anything where they forbid it. There's on 23andMe, there's actually several types of Jewish heredity that they come up with, like Bukharan, Caucasus, Eastern Sephardic. Yeah.
So the point is that the Jews today, I think, are essentially a hodgepodge of multiculturalism at its base.
So thinking about Korea then, because I was born here, I was raised here. I've never lived in South Korea. And how many times in your life has someone said to you, you say, oh yeah, I'm Korean, and they say, oh, which side?
Well,
How often have you heard that one?
North or south?
Yeah.
Yeah. You can excuse the ignorance.
Well, and at first I thought that I would be like, oh, South Korean. It's almost like this gut reaction that you have to say that. And I've been thinking about it recently. And I'm like, why do I have to make this distinction? Not that, like, people in North Korea are Korean. People in South Korea are Korean. Outside of political ideology, they're still the same people.
They are. Yeah.
There's actually nothing genetically that differentiates them at all.
Genetically, however, we have found, and studies have shown, that the North Koreans are a little retarded in their education and their growth.
I don't think that's true.
Did you see the video of the North Korean soldier in Ukraine that got caught?
Yeah, I don't even think that guy's really North Korean. I think he's a Russian Korean.
Oh.
Yeah.
I have no idea what you're talking about. All I know is that if you have a population in North Korea that is closer to starving, then generally that malnutrition over a couple generations, which we're getting close to their second generation of, will tend to see biological, physiological, neurological, and mental and cognitive effects of that malnutrition over time.
I think they did an IQ test of North Korea and of all the countries, and I think it recently came out. And the average IQ of North Korea is like 102, 103.
Fair enough.
Like higher than Americans.
Here's a fact I do know that is true, is that North Koreans are going to overpopulate South Koreans because South Koreans aren't having babies, but North Koreans are actually having births at a replenishment rate that is positive. So there's going to be more North Koreans than South Koreans, like period, full stop.
Because if you think about it, and Koreans, South Koreans, especially in Korea, hate when I say stuff like this because they're like, oh, you're a North Korean sympathizer. You're a 빨갱이, which is called, it's what you call red commies or whatever.
Yeah.
They're going to call me that. Whatever.
Which is crazy because, certainly eat a dick.
Yeah.
Because there are thousands of families in Korea that still have living relatives that are across the wall.
Yeah.
And they can't reach each other. Let's talk to them because they probably want to see their families and relatives before they die.
So
this is important.
I've met if you really think about it, of the two Koreas, North Korea is actually the based Korea.
Oh, they are the Trumpian Korea.
They
for
are
sure.
super based.
Yeah.
They are like, nobody come in here, no one ruin what we're doing. We're going to run it the way we want to run it. We don't want anyone to infiltrate on how we run our country. Yeah. And whether you agree with how they run the country, it's not for you to say because it's not your country.
Yeah.
But
here we are with our Western values saying, "Oh, North Korea, they don't have the internet and the prawn. They need the prawn. They need liberalism. They need the ability to waste their life on the internets with TikTok. Like that's a Western imperialism at its finest.
Because they are super conservative.
Yeah,
They're
North Korea first.
Yes, that's all they care about. And actually, they would rather protect the entire peninsula of Korea rather than all of it.
100%. And this is not communicated often, actually. North Korea, I don't know everything, but from what I've heard, there is a higher sentiment across North Korea of unification for the greater good of Korea people. Which, if you think about it, remove the politics, if we're all one and we're all Korean, we should probably unify. That kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
I think so too. I'm a big proponent of a unified Korea.
Oh, for sure.
I've always been.
No doubt. I think any argument against that is political in nature and lacks like common sense.
But anytime something bad happens in the news, they're like, oh, it's the North Koreans. I remember when George Bush said, the axis of evil. And they said, Iraq, Iran, and North Korea. And I'm like, North Korea? When have they ever invaded anybody?
They have done.
What have they ever done to you?
They've done nothing. Is the answer. They shot a couple missiles over Japan.
You call them? They're called the Hermit Kingdom for a reason because they don't leave.
Yeah, but that's where the APAC imperialism is like they're not being influenced by us, so we need to change them.
That's exactly it. The APAC influence says they are not playing ball with us. We all hate them now.
Yeah, it's Judeo-communism.
Because I spoke to several people that have been in North Korea. Actually, if I can go anywhere in the world to visit, North Korea would be where I'd want to go.
I went to North Korea.
Did you?
I mean, I did the tour through the tunnels.
No. I want to actually go into North Korea. I would love to go. If
I could show you a picture.
If anyone from North Korea is watching, like, let me in.
Well, actually, if there's a North Korean refugee or someone who's come back, who's that lady that was on Joe Rogan?
Oh, she's like the worst.
Is she a PsyOp, though?
Oh, she's the worst.
She a PsyOp?
Yes. Yeonmi Park?
I don't remember her name.
Yeah. So the one with the big... Yeah.
I mean...
Yeah. So, because she... Okay.
So why is she a PsyOp?
Quick
Why is
Yeonmi
it
Park.
obvious that she's a PsyOp?
Because she got famous for going around saying, North Korea is so bad. I used to eat rats and all this.
Yep. She used to eat bark. Tree bark, yeah.
She was famous in Korea before she came to the United States because she used to be on the variety show circuit in South Korea.
I didn't know this.
Oh, yeah.
So she was plucked. So let me get this straight. So she came from North Korea, went into South Korea, made a good life as an influencer.
No.
And
she grew up rich in North Korea.
She grew up with the silver spoon.
Yeah, she's top 1% in North Korea.
And then she came to South Korea.
Yes.
Became famous on her notoriety.
For being the rich North Korean girl.
And then she was plucked from there to become the American PsyOp representing North Korea.
Correct.
She does have a nice rack.
She is well known in Korea, South Korea, for being. She was known as the rich North Korean girl.
I didn't know
that was a character
I didn't know
played.
that about her. Oh my gosh!
And there are pictures of her, like in her dress as a kid, like hanging out and playing in her like walled house. She had like security. Her dad worked for the government. Like she was cush.
She was cush.
And in North Korea, you need domestic visas.
You like my parma?
Yeah.
We should show that. So what you can't see is all the North Korean soldiers on the other side putting their guns up while I'm at the border.
In North Korea, you need a domestic visa to get from one section into the other.
Oh, yeah.
Meaning the rich live where the rich live and the super poor live where the super poor live.
Dang, she's a PsyOp? I
So,
knew she was a PsyOp.
There's no way that she could know at a young age what the poor are living like.
Because she didn't live on that side.
Because she didn't live on that side of the wall. How does she know? Everything that she tells in her book and in her tour, it's like stories that people have told her over time. It's not like her lived experience.
Sadness. I really thought she was a winner.
Yeah, no.
She's retarded.
The whole thing is a PsyOp.
That's unfortunate.
Because I've met several North Koreans in my life. And I think the first time I ever met one was when I first got really interested in North Korea.
Oh.
I was in China in a city called Dalian. And I was at some bar and I met like these North Korean guys.
Were they people who escaped? Or are they on business?
Yeah, business guys.
Oh. Yeah. Because North Korea does a lot of business with China. Yeah.
And I was like shocked. I was like, you guys are from North Korea?
The television at home tells me you guys are slaves.
I was like 25 years old, 24 years old. And I was like, what? No, cognitively, this doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
I was told that you guys can't leave.
Yeah. I thought this was a hermit kingdom where you get killed, right, for trying to leave.
And what am I doing at the bar with you guys?
Yeah.
And they were so interested in me because they've never met like a Korean from America before. They're like, oh, this is really interesting. And I was like, oh, this is really interesting. So we sat around for a while having drinks, right? And they're like, what are you talking about? We come to China for business all the time.
Yes.
They make it sound like North Koreans can't leave North Korea, but that's not true. You just can't come to the United States.
Yeah.
You can go to other countries.
Oh, yeah.
People travel.
Yeah.
They make it sound like no one can go into North Korea, but that's not true. Only Americans can't go to North Korea.
Yep.
Other people can.
Yeah.
And there are border towns from China and North Korea where people go back and forth for work.
All the time.
Some North Koreans live in China.
Yeah.
And they go back to Korea, or they can come to China and live in China if they choose to, but they choose to live in North Korea because that's where their family is and life isn't that bad there.
No, it's not. There are thousands of migrant workers in America who legally cross the border between Mexico and America every single day.
And they go back.
And then they go back. This is what happens all across Europe, right? When I was consulting and doing client work in Europe, when I was in Switzerland, that client had people who crossed the border from Germany that day to go to work, right? Cross the border from France. It's just what people do. And what you have to understand at the base of the base is North Korea requires trade to survive. If you require trade to survive and you have many nice rich mineral and ore deposits that are good for trade, then you will have to have border access and normative business trade practices. So I kept this to myself, but 100%. I met North Koreans when I was living in South Korea. I also met North Koreans when I was in China who were also on business and had the same experience as you, which was, holy crap, the talking person on the retard on the TV told me that you guys couldn't exit, but there's like 15 of you guys here and you're like totally chill. We got our papers, we go back and forth, we make money for our families, is what it is.
Yeah.
But it's the American propaganda machine that tells us that, oh, they're the axis of evil. Really? North Korea is like the size of Rhode Island.
It's tiny.
Bro, they're the axis of nothing.
Well, which is why I got to go see it for myself. Because I've met several people that have traveled through there and people say, oh, the travel is all propaganda. Like, no, you're just kind of there.
Yeah, but since you're an American, you would get shown the propagandized, tour.
If you join, because you have to go through a tour company. If you were to join a tour company and you were to go to Chicago, are you going to go to the bad parts or the good parts only?
Fair enough.
If you do a tour of LA, are you going to go to Skid Row or are you going to go to the nice parts?
No, because Gavin Newsom, he throws all the homeless people into the tunnels and then shoots lasers at the tunnels to burn them all up.
So if someone visits your country,
I saw that on Reddit.
Someone visits your country and you're like, they only showed me the good parts. When have you ever gone to a country and the tour takes you to the bad parts?
No, you go to the bad parts when the tour's over. When you want to get a slice of diarrhea, off the map. That's how it works.
It's not a thing that you go to the bad parts when you visit a new country.
No.
Who wants to show that?
No.
That's just not how it works. And people will take a snapshot of North Korea and they'll say, look, people are starving. If you did the same thing and you did a snapshot of Skid Row in LA and you said, this is America.
Don't do comparative studies here, Matt.
Then people are like, oh, America's the worst. Everyone's starving. Everyone's living in boxes in the street. Everyone has a tent, although they're all the same tent, by the way. They're all living in the street. And people are defecating in the road, and people are hurtled over, and everyone's on drugs.
Yeah.
And that's what the world would think if that's only snapshot of the country that you were shown.
Yeah. If you start doing comparative numbers, then America is actually worse than most countries from a size perspective, right? Because America's let's just round down, 300 million people. North Korea is like 70 million or something like that. I mean, from a ratio perspective, we clearly have more starving, homeless, derelict, unaccounted for lost people in America than North Korea has as a whole, for sure.
And this crazy metric that they use is food hunger.
Yeah.
right? Are the people hungry? And they'll say, oh, North Korea, like 30% of the population are food hungry. I think like 20% of the United States considered food hungry.
Yes.
That's not a huge gap.
No, we're not that far off. I mean, we still have tens of thousands of people in the North Carolina areas that are homeless and hungry that our government doesn't care about. We have people in Hawaii, similar. I'd say and include the LA fires, but they're all rich, so fuck them. Did you see the James Wood thing? Did you see James Wood? You know James Wood, the actor.
Yeah.
He was on CNN. He was crying about, my house is going to be burned down there. And then, like, 3 days later, his house actually wasn't burned down.
Oh, really?
Crocodile tears, bro. Crocodile tears.
More propaganda?
I think, I don't know if it's opportune time, but I think they're trying to remove evidence in those areas.
Of what?
Of the fires, the LA fires.
I think the fires are just fires. I really do.
You don't think it's more nefarious than that?
I think that every time there's a fire, people say, or fire or natural disaster, everyone says, this is to usher in the 15-minute cities. No, they don't need the fire to usher in 15-minute city. They just do it anyway. They've been doing them all over the country. To say that makes it seem like they need a disaster to do it. The reality is they do it anyway. They've been doing it anyway. And they show you the fancy brochure of what a 15-minute city is going to look like. That's just a propaganda of it. The condo association that you live in with the live, work, play, that's the 15-minute city. They're already putting it to you, and they're putting one in every single neighborhood and everywhere you live. So
what you're saying is this is just the progressive realization of that goal over time anyway.
I think the California fires are just shit management by a shit organization of people.
Well, I thought it was cool that all of the leadership of California and the fire department are all named Kristen. Did you see that?
Where?
You didn't see that all three of them are lesbians and they're all
really?
like named Kristen?
It's just poor management.
I don't understand. I don't understand why you would hire people within your dating pool. Like, why do people do that? Like, it's like it's a trans thing. It's
so
like
they can get laid.
Like, but it's like you don't. It's only something that they have the advantage of doing, right? If you're like a CEO gay person, then you hire all of your staff to be gay. It's kind of gross to think about it that way, but you see this trend. You notice this pattern that the gay leadership only hires other gay people. It's like, dude, you're only hiring your own dating pool. Like you loser.
But we historically hire or bring on a lot of Koreans.
I'm not trying to date Will.
I
Will,
wish we had a hot Korean girl here instead of Will.
It would be nice. It would be nice if Will
Replace him.
It would be nice
This
if
is
he
a
had,
replacement theory right here.
Because every
We're
time I
gonna
look
get
over,
rid of Will.
exactly. Every time I look over my shoulder, it's an ugly fuck. Like it'd be nice to look at some rack or some boobs.
Hi, Susan.
You don't want to see. Some things can't be unseen. Will, don't do that. Don't do that. Will was starting to take off something.
I think people naturally just, again, go back to the original argument of tribalism. If you feel like you are a marginalized person and you are this trans, gay, fire chief, you feel like this need and urge to help out other trans, gay, fire people?
Because that's more important than putting out fires or carrying men out of fires. Because if you're a man in a fire, you shouldn't have been there in the first place.
A lot of business people will hire people from their same school just because they're from the same school.
That's that tribalism, right? I think there was a study.
I think we like to throw tribalism in one direction but not realize both sides do it all the damn time.
Well, I think if we abstract ourselves from what we're talking about here to one level, which is kind of the theme of today's conversation, is that tribalism can be a problem, especially if that tribalism has a lot of influence, policy, and decision-making for countries. And I think that is the problem, is that there are minority interest groups that have a lot of sway and a lot of influence in America, but yet they're not America first.
I think the problem is actually the opposite.
Oh, really?
I think tribalism is fine. I think that pretending like it doesn't exist is the biggest problem. If the Israeli lobby said, we are the Israeli lobby, and everyone said, that's the Israeli lobby, then they're actually going to get less stuff done. It's pretending like that's not a real thing by the politicians that lets them do what they want. If you are in a district where all the fire people are trans lesbians, I don't know if that's a thing or not. If you're a district,
in LA, it is.
yeah, if it is known that our fire chief, our police chief, all our policemen, women, and firefighters are all trans lesbians, I can choose to not live there. Because I've been told what the tribe there is. When I go to Koreatown, I know that all the business is going to be Korean. I'm making that choice to go there. There's actually something more honest about that. When you go to Chinatown, you follow Chinatown law. No one's going, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're not speaking English to me here. Like, no, it's Chinatown.
But
It's literally called Chinatown.
But some would say, tell those gooks to get out of here. Or is it too late for that?
It's way too late. That they needed to solve that problem a long time ago. Couldn't solve it then. Don't pretend like you can solve it now. You can't solve the problem when it's a small problem. Don't pretend like you'll be able to solve the problem when it's a big problem.
So what you're basically saying is that tribalism is a natural function of humanity. Is that we naturally move towards people that look like us, talk like us, act like us, have some similarities to us. Fair enough.
Yes.
You're saying the problem is not that the fact that tribalism is innate and natural. You're saying the problem is we ignore the ramifications and the effects and the power of these groups.
A certain segment of society tells people, no, we're all the same. Everyone's American. Everyone's supposed to have the same value. Everyone's supposed to believe the same thing. While the people that tell you that live very tribal.
Yes. So it's the saying one thing but doing another.
If I am
it's two-facedness.
If I'm a top law firm in New York City and I only hire from Harvard, what's wrong with that?
Nothing's wrong with that. You've chosen that to be your hunting ground for good talent.
And if you say we are Harvard attorneys, no one's gonna be like, oh my gosh, like you guys are so tribal, right?
Yeah.
If you go to a Jewish law firm and everyone's Jewish, you go, nice.
Doing the right thing.
Because I have a very good chance that my attorney Mel and the judge Jacob, they go to like synagogue together.
Oh.
It's actually a good thing. You need to recognize that tribalism exists and that maybe understanding that's okay. It comes down back to the premise that I don't really mind racism at all. I think racism solidifies tribalism, and I think tribalism is okay.
So we've established before that Matt is the racist, and I am just prejudiced.
I think
there's a difference.
I think majority of Koreans are inherently racist. You have to be. If you are not racist and you believe that all races were equivalent to one another, then you would not be able to survive as a population for 4,000 years by being Korean. In your heart, somewhere you have to believe that being Korean is better. Otherwise, your next generation would all marry to other groups of people. You have to.
I'm having a hard time digesting everything you just said.
If you are told that all ethnicities and all groups and all people are the same, then what's going to happen is that the future generations are all going to start marrying one another, and then you get interracial marriage, which is fine. I'm not opposed to interracial marriage, but at the same time, Koreans have been Korean for 4,000 years. I would prefer, and I would very much want my daughter to marry a Korean guy.
Yeah, because that's the wisest thing for her to do.
Why?
Because her species is a superior species.
Exactly. You have to be a little racist.
Notice I use the word species, not racist, because I don't believe in racism. I believe in
speciesism.
There are 15 different species of. There are 15 different species of.
That's a really hard word to say.
Of rodent. Like when you look at a squirrel, they're like, I'm making this up clearly, but if you look at a squirrel, there are like 15 species of squirrel. They're all squirrel, but there are some of those squirrels who fly. There's some of those squirrels who don't fly. There's some of those squirrels that are fat, chunky, slim, red, brown, black, white. Right? They're different species. Some of those species are dumber. Some of those species are more industrious. Some of those species are smarter. I don't look at the world from a racial standpoint, Matthew. I look at it at a level more important. It's a species issue. We should not have interracial species. That's the problem. Because you're dumbing down the overall, you're dumbing down your bloodline. You're dumbing down your species. Like, race is just a color. It's just a color filter. I look at the deeper. Like, your daughter, and somebody will be like, Peter, holy crap, you're actually more than racist. No. I'm a level below that. It is keep your species viable. Like, let's do a thought experiment. Matthew, what would happen if all the white people disappeared? What would happen if all I'm not talking about the fake white people.
I don't
like
know
the
difference.
Judeo-communists.
Okay.
I'm talking about real waspy,
Wait, I thought they were white.
real waspy,
It's really confusing.
Anglo-Saxon, Germanic, Swiss, Swede, like those type of white people. If
Ashkenazi?
no,
Okay.
So you're saying no more pumpkin spice lattes?
I'm saying if
I enjoy a pumpkin
here's the
spice
thought
latte
experiment.
from time to time.
Follow with me. Here's the thought experiment. What would happen if suddenly all the white people disappeared? What would happen to the world, Matt? What would happen to the world?
Everyone would be Chinese.
If we look at history's past, it is the Eurasian species that are able to industrialize and create societies. Chinese, Eurasian. They created a culture and that's lived longer than any other, right? You look at the Anglos and the Aryans from the Germanic areas and the British areas, right? They created industry. But you go to Africa, you go to India, they didn't create industry. So there's it's some would say it's a racial disparity. I think you're looking at the wrong side of the coin. I think you need to look down a level deeper. It's a species differential.
I think
It's a species issue, not a racial issue. It's a species issue. That's the PsyOp. The PsyOp is we were born and going through biology in 6th, 7th, 8th grade that there's one human species. How come there's one human species, but for every other species in the world, there's a multiplicity? Don't bullshit me. There's multiple species of rat, multiple species of snake, multiple species of dog, cat, tiger, like lemur, ostrich, but there's only one human species. Get the fuck out of here. Get out of here. There's multiple species of humans, and different species of humans are industrious. Some species are stupid. Some species like to, just dance around and shake that ass. Like, there are certain species that have certain dispositions, and that's just the nature of how God made it. So let me get back to your question. Should your daughter marry Korean? Yes, for the sake of her species, not a race. Her species. Do you want to dilute your bloodline and your species, Matt?
Interesting. I think because people that don't know, Europe and Asia are actually one continent. It's one landmass.
Yeah.
The difference is if you're white or you're not white. That's the difference between Europe and Asia, right? It's one landmass. So it's not a geographic thing at all.
And most of Russia looks like us, by the way.
Which is why those North Korean, Russian that were in Ukraine, they're actually Russian.
I remember telling this to someone like 2 decades ago. I remember it's clear as day. We were talking about Russia. It was something probably in the news. And I was like, did you know that 80% of Russians look like me? And this woman turned to me and she was like, no way. It's like, you're so ignorant, dude. Most of Russia looks like us. They have slanted eyes. They have darker, tanner skin, peach skin. Right? It's just the way it is.
I think that Europeans have a history of, especially within the leadership monarchies, marrying other countries within each other, and they've normalized that idea. So that therefore Europe is like French aren't really French because French marry the Spanish marries the English. Like, this is a thing.
You didn't answer my question though. What would happen if all the white man disappeared?
I have no idea.
The world would collapse. The
A lot
world
of
would
poo-feeling.
the world would collapse, and the industrious Asians would take over. That's what happened. That's what would happen. And people are going to say, oh, I already know what people are going to. There are going to be lots of pooflinging on this episode because of what I'm saying. But the patterns are real, bro.
SAR.
The patterns are real, and I'm not diminishing other species. I am saying that different species of human have different dispositions, skills, advantages, and cognitive capabilities than other species, like every other animal. You remember in middle school, kingdom, phylum, genus, right? You remember all that? No, you don't, because you went to school and you partied your ass off. I remember that shit.
Public school.
Right? Like, we learned about the taxonomy of differentials in species, but yet we were sold this bill of goods in high school, and I remember that it said there's only one species, the human species.
Okay.
That's bullshit.
You said that the world fall apart, and I disagree adamantly.
Why?
Because I think that, for example, Africa would just be Africa, that they would live the way that they prefer to live. I think we assume that the world all wants industrialization, but some countries and some nations, some people have chosen specifically not to embrace it. It's this idea that you have to be industrialized, you have to be modernized, you have to let technology into every aspect of your life, which is adamantly not true.
Fair. So let me qualify. The industrial nations of today, the first world countries of today, would immediately collapse if the white man, the waspy Anglo-Saxon, Aryan, true blood, if they were all to disappear, the industrial nations would be destroyed. The Eurasian
And
species would take over. That's
if
what
the
would happen.
industrialized countries did not import more people, they would fail on their own anyway.
But we had this argument. The industrialized nations are not importing doctors, lawyers, and spacemen.
They're just importing bodies.
They're
'Cause
importing.
they need them.
They're
And the non-industrialized countries are the places that have people to spare.
Yes, they do. They do have plenty to spare.
So industrialized countries actually cannot survive on their own because they don't have the people to do so.
Well, we're heading there. I mean, we're on that trajectory.
Like, what would happen to Europe if they did not import people from Africa?
We're seeing that now, like in England and Germany and
They
France.
would just cease to exist.
They are ceasing to exist before our very
What would
eyes.
happen to the United States if they didn't import more South Americans?
I mean, that's where we're headed.
North Korea, United States would cease to exist.
It would.
Yeah.
And so
So-
here's the question: Does America need a common thread, a shared understanding? Does America need a cultural glue so that we can survive?
I think it's too far segmented to create this all of a sudden, hey, this is all what we do now.
But that would never happen.
Yeah.
Never happen.
I think the most likely situation and the most logical solution and probably the best solution is that everyone is just who you are. Everyone's broken up in tribes, and this is a country where all the tribes exist together.
So, could you foresee it? And I think this is a natural thing that's going to happen, not in our lifetime. Do you foresee America invariably splitting up into essentially Europe, where all these states end up becoming their own nation states of sorts? Because it's like
No.
the people, the Haitians in Chicago and Illinois, they just like eating cats and dogs, and I'm just not down with that. So I'm going to move to Georgia, where it's illegal to eat cats and dogs.
Is it illegal here?
I don't know. Is it illegal to eat cats and dogs?
I don't know.
And pigeons and stuff. Like, you understand my point. Like, I think if what you're saying is come to pass is that everyone's going to be there in their little tribes, then invariably, because there's no common American glue, Texas is going to end up becoming its own country. Louisiana, Georgia, New Jersey, New York, California will end up becoming their own nation state within a union, like a European Union of sorts. I think that's a natural occurrence. I think that's what has to happen if we keep the tribalism as the way it is.
I think each state already is too large, too many people. Where one state, it's just too large to do it. Like California can't be its own nation state. It's too many people.
Yeah.
It's too many groups. It's too many different cities, too many different microcosms all over the place. I think that in itself is too large.
Yeah.
So I think the most likely situation, again, is that we say it's okay for everyone to be tribal. And this is a country where all the tribes are able to get along.
The problem...
Trying to get everyone to get along and deny their tribalism is why this isn't working.
Right. The amount of constraints that are going to be put on trade, social, transportation, economics, right? It's going to be really rough in that future because everyone's tribal and everyone has to come up with their own laws of the land, and frankly, you cannot create. See, I had a conversation with a brilliant consultant a decade and a half ago in New Jersey. We were consulting together. His name is Shiraj Shuridan. Brilliant man. He gets paid lots of money to help essentially decompose PMO offices in large project management offices. He said something to me that I'll never forget. We were sitting at a bar. We were talking about organizational change and how hard it is to make organizational change stick because it's a complex system. And if you change something here in an organization, then you have downstream implications and effects and out causes and the rest of the organization down here. And we were kind of going over this and struggling through this, and I'll never forget what he said. He said the reason why his purpose in life is to decompose project management offices in large companies is he said this. He said, Peter, the problem with a project management office is you're trying to standardize policies, procedures, methods, frameworks across a variable system. And I looked at him and I said, that makes sense. And then he said this, and I'll never forget it. He said the problem with that is it's trying to standardize a dog, a rat, a cat, a giraffe, a hippo, and a human to all run the mile at the same time. It's not possible. And so what he does is instead of trying to standardize processes across a variable system, he allows each business unit to create their own working agreements and learn how to trade. Because when you standardize across, he said this, and the two F's, I got to say this. He said, when you try to standardize across a human system of variable actors, some will flourish, most will fail. I'll never forget that conversation because that conversation is exactly the hodgepodge, melting pot that America is that we're trying to standardize policies, laws, right, across a variable system of tribes in which these tribes are so different from each other that you cannot standardize a policy, right? If you try to standardize everyone is required in America to eat pork, you're going to offend a lot of people because some of those tribes, you can eat pork, right? That's, an example.
Well, you can, you just don't.
Fair enough.
Delicious, by the way.
It is.
Bacon's the best. Come on.
Have you ever had bacon chocolate? Chocolate bacon?
That sounds good. I probably have.
Oh my God. Have you ever had chocolate bacon?
Chocolate covered bacon with like some crushed nuts on there.
These nuts.
Have you had it? Yeah. Dude, I could eat chocolate bacon forever. You never had? There's a place in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Next time we're up there, I forget it's going to come to me later. The best chocolate bacon.
Can you just take bacon and dip it in chocolate?
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
It seems really simple. Like I don't have to go all the way to Tennessee
to
eat
good.
it.
No.
Okay, it's just bacon and chocolate.
Yeah. Dude,
Okay.
These guys cook it. They deep fry it.
I mean,
and
you're not gonna eat the bacon raw.
Dude, it's like an orgasm in your mouth.
Yeah, I don't know where to go from there. You just made I think everyone just kind of like, what the hell just happened?
That's where you see the Matt Kim logo go poof. We're gone. We're gone. Like end of episode. Okay, look. So understand the point. We both agree that America's probably going to end up moving to more tribalism. The problem is
I think it should. I don't know if it's going to.
Okay, fair enough. But my argument is that it's going to be impossible to standardize laws and policies across these multivariant tribes and groups. So therefore, my logic naturally moves to that these tribes will have to substantiate nation states and say, this is our border. If you believe in Sharia law, Georgia's the only Sharia law compliant. If you believe in, Heder Iska and Jewish law and the Talmud, you get to hang out in New York.
City.
New York City. That's your spot. Right? I mean, I think in the long span of human timescales, I think that's probably what's going to happen, man.
That would take it It would take the removal of powers from the federal government, and that's obviously the biggest problem and hurdle to that, because the United States government and the corporation of the United States of America will never usurp their power because it's just not what they're built for. You don't create the largest military, biggest finance system in the world, and they're like, oh, do you know what? We're gonna decentralize a little bit.
Yeah.
We're gonna give power back to the people. That's never gonna happen. It would take an entire collapse for something like that to happen. So, is that impossible? I don't know. The way things are going with the government, it's not impossible. I mean, they've been bankrupt for a long time now. We're like pretending like they're solvent when they're not. We all know they're not.
You started this podcast out with the question, Korean American or just American? So my question to you is, are you going to say just American from now on? Or are you going to continue to hyphenate it with Korean American?
I don't even think I say I'm Korean American. I just think I tell people I'm Korean.
I just tell people I'm American. And like, it's pretty obvious that I'm who I am. So I'm American at the end of the day. To add the Korean it's
but if you're in America, you're speaking English, you're living here, you're working here, your family's here, then it's like, I'm American. I'm like, no shit, you live here.
Yeah.
It's like redundant.
It is redundant.
Yeah. The non-redundancy would be to say you're Korean.
I think what we're struggling with, and I think what's important for us to note in all of this conversation, is that there is no common thread in America.
That's the hard part.
That is that lacking in the American overall culture since that. And we're only getting farther from that divide, by the way.
Correct.
Like, we're not getting closer to unity.
No.
As more mass immigration, more cultures, more ideas come into America, we are getting farther from the potential of a unifying
I think we are past the point of no return.
I mean,
because
Trump,
the right has gone a certain direction. The left wants to go a certain direction. Yeah, like there was an election, but you're talking about a marginal group of people in the middle that would always kind of in the middle. But ideologically, it is so far apart at this point that I don't see any way to bring that together. I don't see anyone on the right going, oh, do you know what? We should be more accepting and understanding of the left's ideas. We don't see that. You don't see on the left going, well, maybe that whole Christian conservative thing, it maybe makes sense. Like, you don't see that either.
Yeah.
Because, again, there's nothing to bind them.
Okay, yeah.
But all over the country, if I go to New York or I go to LA or I go to Chicago or I go to Dallas, where most of the Korean people are, I'm like, well, you know, like, I'm Korean.
So let me ask you
I go to
this.
the Korean restaurant. They're Korean.
What should be the common thread? What should it be?
I think the common thread should be that we are in a country that believes in freedom of speech, that we allow the tribalism, because if we allow free speech, then we allow different ways of life, different viewpoints, and that we are going to be okay with the idea that the people that we may not agree with also live here too. I think it's this idea, and I think I fell into that boat for a long time, is that I thought everyone that lived here should believe what I believed. I thought that
I get that. I get it.
Right?
I
thought that everyone should believe what I believe because I believe that my Christian conservative values are better, and therefore everyone should be like me.
Fair enough. I get that.
I don't think that's a reality of this country.
I don't think you can assume or assert that needs to happen. You can't.
I think it's acknowledging that there are people in this country that have very different ideologies.
Yes.
That there are people that want to be communist, that there are people that want to be Marxist, there are people that want to live in a democratic society. Some people like this representative democracy that we currently have. Some people actually benefit from the oligarchy. Some people want it to be more bottom up. Some people like top down. I think we understand and respect that everyone has different views and that some black kids want to hang out with only black kids, and that's fine. If you want to have a black school, have a black school. If you want to have a white school, have a white school. If you want to have a Jewish school, have a Jewish school. If you want to send your kids to a Korean school, send them to a Korean school.
Sure.
I think we should be okay with that idea instead of trying to say, do you know what? Let's all make everyone all look same.
I agree. I don't think there's anything that you said I disagree with. I think we should be a nation of options and a nation of free choice. I think the rub is when a minority group makes policies for the rest of us. And a minority group creates policies that require from us our money.
And I think that
I think is the problem.
I think the problem with the minority group, again, is that they hide as though they're not a minority group.
Which I think is to be so, like, do you know
Like if a congressman said, we are Israel first, and we are making policies specifically for Israel because we're part of this Israeli AIPAC tribe, and that was known and people could talk about it, then people are like, no, like, I actually don't like that. Because there is a level of transparency to it, and there's a little bit level of accountability to it. It's when they say, no, we swear it's because they're our greatest ally, but they don't disclose the fact that they also receive $500,000 to $1 million every single year in campaign financing from them.
Mm-hmm.
That's very deceptive.
Yeah. So do you know the slogan for Mossad? Do you know their slogan?
No.
That's on their crest?
No.
Right? Because you have like, Air Force or military, they have
Yes.
a patch on their crest. Do you know Mossad's,
Get ready to fact check this, Will.
the Jewish Israeli Secret Service and all of that? If I remember correctly, it's something like, through secrets, we will wage war. Or something like this. What is it? What's the Mossad Israeli
Slogan.
slogan? That's the word. Mossad slogan. Look that up. Mossad slogan. It's like by way of deception or something like that.
Right. By way of deception, thou shalt do war, and that they do. They are the best.
So, let's say it again. By way of deception, right?
Yep. By way of deception, thou shalt do war.
By way of deception, thou shalt wage war. That is the theme of the Israeli Secret Service, Israeli intelligence apparatus. Through deception, we will wage war. Like, there's nothing else that you need to know about the undergirding policies, mental models of this species of people group. This species of people group.
What is the CIA slogan, Will?
Look that up. But this species of people group, of humans that we have in this world, their literal slogan is, by deception, we shall wage war.
It's boring. It says, the work of a nation, the center of intelligence.
Come up with something cool, like by way of deception, thou shalt wage war. That's kind of cool.
Their unofficial motto is John 8:32, which is, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
That sounds like a psyop.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. That's a misnomer.
wild. That sounds kind of heretic, to be honest.
Yeah, heretical. So that's all you need to know about this people group, is that their intelligence services slogan is deception, war. I would pause, Matt. I would pause to allow anyone in any nation to allow an individual who represents that type of model to make policies on my behalf. That's problematic to me. That's why I think it's a species issue, not a racial issue. It's a species issue. There are species who like to wage war.
Okay. A lot of people, when we criticize kind of IDF, Mossad, Jewish people, whatever, I've heard a lot of people say, shouldn't there actually be a program, or shouldn't you actually be understanding and learning from what they do? Because obviously, whether you like it or not, they've been very successful at what they do.
Oh, yeah.
Should we be learning from them and try to figure out how to model after what they've done?
To take what you've just said and to recontextualize it, I would say that you're telling us that we should be even more deceptive to wage war against those who are being deceptive to wage war.
Trace Buster.
Wait, are we the bad guys?
Oh, we're always the bad guys.
Am I the bad guy?
You're the good guy.
Am I the bank and the bag holder?
That's why you're the good guy. You're the only one that actually pays.
So nobody. I didn't see any comment on my I was the meme.
Yeah,
you know that meme. Oh, no one commented on it, you unsullied. I thought someone would be like, "Oh, you did the meme." Yeah. So I mean, that's my thing.
They're like, Peter's really sad about this.
No, I was just memeing the entire time, guys. So I don't know. I think our noticing is important. I think it's not that I'm,
because it's a small segment of society that has a kind of a long history,
Yeah.
that has been able to figure out how to take over a lot of real estate within people's minds, thoughts, ideas, culture, and influence their way of thinking into pretty much the entire world.
Yeah.
I get that, for example, I'm going to use Koreans because we're Koreans. I get that that's not something that we typically want to do. Actually, really interesting is that people don't know that before the Korean War, there was 3 guys that were vying for power. There is Kim Il-sung, who's from North Korea. There is Syngman Rhee, who was the South Korea. And then there was a guy who was the leader of the provincial government of Korea, Kim Gu. And Kim Gu said, before North Korea and South Korea split, he said, I want Korea to be the most beautiful country in the world. I want them to be not the richest, but rich enough where they take care of your own population. I don't want them to be the strongest, but strong enough to reject any outside attackers. I don't want Seoul to become the new Moscow. I don't want Seoul to become the new Tokyo. I don't want the Seoul to become the new Washington, D.C. I want Seoul to be Seoul, which I loved.
I like that.
And he's probably one of my favorite guys in Korean history, modern Korean history. And that's kind of the idea, right? Is that that's how a lot of people, Korean people, always thought, is that we don't want to infiltrate the outside world. And actually, that's how China thinks too. China's not out there thinking, and contrary to public belief, China doesn't go, how do we make everyone believe what Chinese believe? How do we turn everyone to Chinese? Like, they don't actually want that. Chinese, it literally means Middle Kingdom because they believe they're the center of the earth and everyone else revolves around them.
Yep.
United States is the only country, and Israel are the only countries out there that want other people to believe how they believe. If you want to be successful, like the United States, if you want to be successful, like Israel, do you have to take that social, cultural, imperialistic view?
No, the short answer is no. Right. And I would go back to my statements earlier that some species of human love war.
Japanese love war.
That species of human has changed their ways. Right. Right. They are a war. They do come from a warlord background, a warlord history for sure, but they are an ethnocentric, xenophobic country that have essentially chosen Japan first. And if you go back in history, they kicked out the Yuden years ago.
Correct. But over time, don't people always revert back to what they need to do?
What do you mean?
Meaning Japan is shrinking.
Oh, yeah.
It's going underwater.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
They are losing landmass.
Yep.
They have to, in order to survive, they actually have to, at some point, expand out. They can't live on those islands forever. Meaning, at some point, don't they have to become imperialistic again? I think that has to be true.
I think in today's world,
Maybe in this generation they don't, but in a future generation, it's just a matter of time. They have to leave that place.
I think they're going to have to come. I mean, you can be
100 years, 200 years, 300, 500 years. Eventually, they're coming for you.
So, people still look at America as an imperialist nation, and you wouldn't be wrong in theme because we still have 300, 400 embassies, thousands of embassies all over the world, or whatever the number is, right? We are the world police, but at the same time, we're not exporting Americans to other countries to proselytize our imperialism, right? Most countries, when they see American tourists, they're like, ugh. These fat people, like, they were terrible with their iPhones everywhere and just not respecting their culture is usually how it looks. But, like, there are some species of humans where they do that. They infiltrate. They put their species into sectors and areas of industry and markets and influence to influence. Like, Koreans don't do this. Or Koreans don't have a history of sabotage. Koreans don't have a history of spying. Koreans don't have a history of stealing nuclear codes from their host nation, right? But there is a pattern of a particular species of humans who are constantly caught with their hand in the cookie jar of other countries. That species has a particular mental model of deception to wage war. And we as our species, looking at that species, we have not recognized the wolf in the sheep's pen. We have not recognized the wolf in the sheep's clothing. That's why the white man will be decimated.
Whenever I take a stance against the Israeli war, because I'm very adamantly anti-war.
You mean you don't like it when people kill people, Matt?
It obviously, and
well, shit. How much more Captain Obvious can you get?
And then the natural response from Jewish people around me will say, "What would you do if that was Korea? What if North Korea was attacking South Korea? Do you not want the United States to get involved?"
You want my answer? No. America is not my baby daddy. Koreans can handle themselves. We're a hardy culture. We're a hardy species. We're mountainous people. We have huge thighs and calves. Like, you know this, right? Right? Like sometimes you look at these ladies, you're like, damn, woman, you must have been in the mountains back in the day.
Walking up the hills.
Damn, those oi, Udari. Seriously though, like we're hardy. So I no. The short answer is no. No. If North Korea invaded South Korea, I'd say Korea,
figure it out.
Let's roll. Let's roll. Let's do this for the homeland, for the motherland. But we don't need America, baby mama, to take over. No.
And in South Korea, they would call you, the conservative side of South Korea would call you a North Korean sympathizer and say that you are a communist and that you hate Korea.
Yeah.
That would be the conservative South Korean stance, because they believe that the United States government being there and the military being there is essential because it is the only thing that holds off from the North Korean invasion of Korea. I mean, that's literally what the presidents are fighting about right now in Korea.
I see that as a political advertisement, right? And to equate a North to South Korea invasion analog to what's happening in Palestine, apples and oranges, right? North Korea isn't currently acting genocide on South Koreans. North Koreans are not starving and carpet bombing children and women in South Korea. There's a difference. So if we were to get to a point, and I think this would change the narrative, where you and I were to wake up on a Monday and it's clear as day, news reports are saying that North Korea is now starving South Korea, they're carpet bombing them, and they're blowing up hospitals and killing and all these things, then we would be having a different discussion. But that is currently being exacted in other countries like Palestine right now. And so the question is, do I want my money to be spent on behalf of genociding another people group? The answer is no. The answer is no. It's apples and oranges to me. I don't think it's a false equivalency.
I think Korea should be one Korea. I very much am proud to be Korean. And when they say, you're Matt, Peter, you guys are honorary Aryans, I say, I'm good.
Could we be Asian? How about AAA? Asian American Aryans.
No, like even that Asian American thing is weird to me. Like I don't think I'm Asian American because like in Korea you don't think I'm Asian. Like you either.
No, that's true. That's true.
When you're in Korea,
I never think about being Asian in Asia for sure.
Yeah, if you're in Korea, you're Korean and you call all foreigners foreigners. There's a dichotomy there. You're Korean and everyone else is other.
Yeah, that's true.
Meaning white people and black people and Chinese people and Japanese people kind of all get grouped up into other.
That's true. That's true.
It's very simple.
Yeah, it is.
And I think that's okay for Americans to do also. Like Americans, everyone's other. Like there's nothing wrong with that. And I think I'm more okay with that because I understand that from that perspective.
So are you America first?
Of course I'm America first.
What does that mean to you?
It means that you want America to be the best version of itself possible because this is where we live, this is where I continue to live, this is where my children live, and this is where I want to continue to live. It doesn't mean that I don't remove the possibility that one day I may actually go back to Korea.
Really?
Yeah, I think about that all the time.
Why?
Because I think that Korea has problems of its own. I think that the country itself could use different ideas, different perspectives. I think that Korea itself has gotten into this kind of weird groupthink that is very dangerous. And the policies that are enacted in Korea right now are clearly not working because South Korea has the highest suicide rate in the world and the lowest birth rate in the world. So I think that at some point, in order for South Korea to survive and make it future generations, there's only 3 options, okay? Option 1 is that you start importing more immigrants. Not the best, because South Korea was...
Well, you're going to dilute the species.
Yeah, South Korea wouldn't be South Korea anymore.
Yeah.
What makes South Korea is that everyone's Korean. 97% of the population are Korean that live in Korea. You would lose that.
Yeah.
Then it's no longer Korea.
Yeah.
You no longer have the shared 4,000 years of history and tradition.
Nope.
So you can't do that. The other is that you just go the way it is, and that population just eventually goes down and dies, in which case Korea no longer exists. Another option is that...
Matt Kim to the rescue. He's going to move from America to Korea to save the day.
Well, it's not just me. At some point, Korean diaspora throughout the world may just all have to go back.
That sounds like those free trips to Israel if I was Jewish.
But when you do the free trips to Israel, they want you to come, kiss a wall, take their ideology, and go back and spread it throughout the world.
No, they want you to stay there. It's like a timeshare.
Well, this, you'd have to actually like not timeshare, but like really go back.
Oh, yeah.
You know? Because what else do you do? Option 4 is that there has to be reunification between North Korea and South Korea. Actually, the best thing for Korea as a peninsula as a whole, as a nation as a whole, as a people as a whole, is that the diaspora eventually have to go back, reinvest back into Korea, and North Korea has to join with South Korea. You actually need both things to happen in order for Korea to exist for another 100, 200, 300 years.
Man.
Without that, actually it's screwed.
You're asking...
And it's not what I want to do.
Yeah.
I'm not going, I really hope I get to go back and live in Korea one day. But I think that there has to be a sense of nationalism outside of the world, because I asked you and you said, I'm American.
Yeah.
I said, well, I think you have to be Korean also. Meaning the people and your forefathers will cease to exist, and the country in which you came from will cease to exist unless people that are outside the country start caring about the country again. Man. Even knowing that the people in Korea see me as other.
There are some fringe activist individuals who would love to hear what you just said. How they would interpret it is, Matt has finally woken up. He's realized that he's Korean. He should go back to Korea and leave America. No, you know this. There are some very far, whatever you want to call them, that would say, Matt, you've woken up. Excellent. Go back to Korea. Make Korea great again. And they would love for you to do that.
And it's not to say that I don't love America, that I don't love this country, that this is a country in which I want to live, that I want my children to grow up. But I think like family ties, bloodlines, these things matter. And sometimes that means that you have to do things that you don't want to do. I don't want to go live in Korea. I want to live here. But if everyone that left Korea felt that way, and Korea were to keep on going the direction it's going, then it would cease to exist, and that would make me really sad.
So, but yes, and not a but. Yes, and everything that you just communicated is non-existent in the average American.
Yes.
And people are going to be like, you can't speak for all of America. Fine. But if you were born and raised in Jonesboro, Idaho, you're here in America. There's and if you were the type of American who doesn't have a, let's say more liberal, maybe of that type of, you have no filial piety. This is a very old world, filial piety. You have no filial piety to your homeland like you have with Korea. right? Like if you were Joe Smith from Boise, Idaho, and then you moved to Germany, what are the chances after 10 years, 15 years of living in Germany that Joe Smith from Boise, Idaho would wake up someday and say, you know what? I really need to go back and save America. Like that.
I think there are groups of people that think like that.
Really?
Yeah, I think there are people.
Is there a diaspora of Americans living across the world as expats who are having this thought of maybe it's time for me to leave where I am and go back and save America? Come on,
it's
man.
the lack
Really?
of tribalism.
Really?
So people aren't going, I got to go back and save all of America because America as a tribe is too big of a tribe. But there are people that if I'm from small town Missouri and I leave and I go to college in New York and I go work in Wall Street somewhere, at some point in their life, there's a lot of people that go, I want to go back to small town Missouri and I want to make sure I help there.
I get that.
Yeah.
I
I think
get
it's
that.
really similar to that, actually.
I get that.
Because that's their
local.
tribe.
Yeah.
That's the people that they grew up with. That's the people where their family is. Maybe they made it. Maybe they had success. Maybe their old town in small town Missouri is an industrialized town that the economy is left, the industry is left. And they're like, well, what do we need to do? Like, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go invest there. I feel like this is something that the black community should do and they don't do.
Oh.
A lot of people become athletes, become hip hop stars. They become extremely rich. They leave their neighborhoods. They go move into the white part of town. And then they're like, oh, yeah, we're going to help. And they open up a Magic Johnson Theater and they call it a day. We're like, oh, we helped. We gave 10 jobs.
Yeah. We created commerce.
But they don't go back and they don't buy up the liquor stores or the convenience stores, or the dry cleaners, or the things in that neighborhood that may make society better for them. They're not. They throw a few dollars like LeBron James did, throw a few dollars and build a school in Akron, Ohio. The school sucks. People can't graduate.
None of them graduated.
No one graduates.
No one
No one
knows math.
No one can pass a test. And he's like, no, but I did my thing. Look, there's a LeBron James school. It's not the same.
Yeah, they're all
You
living-
have to actually go back. What if LeBron James went back to Akron and made it his mission to make Akron better because that's where he's from? That'd be amazing, actually.
That would be amazing.
But he won't because he's selfish.
You're right.
It takes a level of selflessness in order to do it. I would, if I'm LeBron James, I'd rather live in LA. I'd rather live in Miami. I'd rather live large where I can have all the white hookers I want. But you have to give that up.
So are you saying that there are some species of humans that lack familial piety towards their hometown and their upbringing?
I think it's this idea that people are constantly told that you can't be tribal. I think if they were raised to be normalized to the idea that being tribal is okay, that in his heart he would know, oh, I got to go back and help my tribe. It's because it's like, no, your tribe is not the people that you grew up with. Your tribe is your new fan base. And they're in LA, so you got to love LA. Like, no.
You're not
Like,
wrong. You're not wrong. Actually, I feel like I just got it after this entire hour-long conversation. Is that America is so decentralized.
Yes.
America is so fractured. There is no common thread to pull on. And because our identities, moving into the technology world, our identities have been so eviscerated by technology and our decentralized nature, as well as lockdowns, which separated us even farther, and all of the policies, like there is in America, let me get to the point. It seems like in America today, it is impossible to establish any shared common values. It's just not possible. That's why America will continue to thrash as the sock puppet of the Judeo-communists, because it is easier to control a fractured and non-unified people groups than if they were Korea first, German first, English first, America first, Japan first.
If you want to be LGBTQ first in your corner of San Francisco, go do it.
Go do it.
And I think if we can understand that that's what they're doing and people are less unapologetic about it and we as a society stop shunning it. I mean, again, I don't agree with it. And I think it's okay for me to say that, no, your tribe sucks.
So let's extrapolate
part
to
of
the
the
extreme.
tribalism.
Because I want to get you in hot water right now.
Okay.
I want to make sure that the internet clips this.
Nice.
So are you saying, Matt, that you're pro-segregation?
Yes.
I got nothing else to say.
I think it's fine. I think that people naturally feel better within their own tribe, whatever that is. And segregation doesn't mean it has to be by race or color only.
Oh, okay.
It's whatever the tribe
Because
is.
it's a politically charged term.
It's a weird word, but it doesn't mean like only like black and white. You know what I mean?
So you're saying, so let me qualify. So you're saying
We
that,
live in a segregated world, by the way.
so what you're saying is segregation is not a bad thing. Let me flip the coin. So what you're also saying then, Matt, is that forced integration of different cultures and community and species is detrimental? Is that what you're saying?
Forced integration, I don't think is the way. It hasn't worked.
So you're
nor
saying
is it
if
working.
I'm a small town in Missouri of 1,200 people, and the government decides to throw 800 Haitians into my small community of 1,200 people, that's not right, is what you're saying?
It's definitely not right.
But I thought America was a hodgepodge mixing pot where we should all get along, and it should work out fine.
If you have to import 800 Haitians into a town, just put them in their own town. Like, what's wrong with that? Why is that weird?
Well, because the Haitians need the white man infrastructure to live.
And you can hire them. But why do you have to force integrate where they live?
Because in Haiti, there's no white man anymore because they kicked them all out.
Yeah.
So there's no infrastructure. So we have to import them so that they can have infrastructure made by the white man.
If you go to a black club, you let black people in.
Yes.
Yes. And if you're white and I don't want to let you in, I don't have to let you into my black club.
That is your decision. You will have to deal with the social ramifications of that white man screaming on Instagram that he's been racially profiled and that you're not allowing him in. But you can choose that economic decision, is what you're saying.
If I am a women's club and I don't want to let men in, it's the decision of the owner of said establishment.
That's racist. That's racist.
Why is that not okay?
I am a woman.
And the reality is, it's okay in certain areas. They just say you can't do it in others.
I am a woman, and I want to patronize your gay bakery.
Exactly.
So you have to make me a cake.
You have to make me a dick cake because I said so.
No, I'm a woman, so you need to make me a vagina cake.
No, women like dick cakes. They're weird like that.
Oh.
Yeah, bachelor parties are all dicks.
Oh.
It's really confusing. Anyway.
It seems like, Matt, you're not a big fan of forced integration of different species.
I think allowing people to be separated into their tribes is a good thing.
And you're pro-segregation.
Because if you are in New York City, because New York City is like the perfect example of it. You have Little Italy, you have Chinatown, you have Koreatown, you have Fifth Avenue, Jewtown, whatever you want to call it, right?
You got it.
And
It's true. It's all
people are okay with that. But once you call it segregation, they're like, oh, like, wait. No, like, that's literally how the city runs.
Yeah.
And if I'm Chinese and I go up 2 blocks to Little Italy, they're like, oh, great, the Chinese are here. They're here to come to our establishment. And people are able to cross commerce. People are able to cross understand. But at the end of the day, they go back. And people are okay with that. People are fine with that. It works actually really well.
Can I, have you ever...
Remember when the village was all gay people?
Yeah. I mean, I would love that. I mean, they would since they're all gay, they would only last one generation.
They made it really nice.
It had lots of flowers, lots of acrylic colors, right? I love it. So let me ask you this: Have you ever seen an instance where the white man has been imported to colored countries forcibly?
I'm trying to think.
Forcibly is the key word.
No.
It's never happened.
Why?
Maybe it's because the white man is a species of human that looks at the economic opportunities within the land and sees industry opportunities within the land. And because the white man is made that way, they look to build infrastructure rather than to be a consumer of.
I wonder why that is.
So it seems like there are some patterns of some species of humans where they just like to consume and take. And there are some species of humans that like to build and be industrious.
What is it about white people that they really shun the idea of tribalism?
That's where I'm going.
Yeah,
That's
why?
where I'm going. I don't know. It's a cultural thing. Like
Because Asians, like Vietnamese are Vietnamese, Koreans are Koreans, Chinese are Chinese, Japanese are Japanese, Thai are Thai, although like some of the smaller Eastern Asian countries are starting to mix a little bit.
Right.
In South America, the Guatemalans are Guatemalan, the Venezuelans are Venezuelan, the Brazilians are Brazilian.
Yeah.
In Europe, they're just European.
Yeah.
Why? I mean, if you're in Africa, everything's broken up by their tribe.
Yeah.
Why are white people the only ones that can't figure out tribalism? Is it because they can't figure it out? Is that they're trying to impose their non-tribalistic ways on the rest of the world?
I think it's
Because it's so foreign to them?
I think it's the complete opposite.
Huh.
I think that's not baked into their genetic code as a species. Their genetic code as a species is I spawned into the game as a white guy, level 1. Ooh, there's fish resources. Ooh, there's forest resources. Ooh, there's a mine resources. I can start mining the fish, mining the forest, mining the ore. Cool. Spawned into video game. Who do I want to offend? Haitian.
Uh-huh.
There's a pigeon. I can eat it. Bro, I know I'm offending people, but don't be deceived. Open your eyes. There are dispositions for each species of human. And if you follow the pattern, we're just talking about the white man here. The pattern of the species of the white man is they see when they spawn into this video game, they look out at the world and they say, I want to build something. There are some species that when they spawn into the world, they say, I want to take. I'll leave it there.
Take these nuts in the comment section. See you guys next week.